In 1986, a self-ordained minister in Philadelphia had a plan that would horrify the world. Gary Heidnik didn't want followers. He wanted something much worse. He kidnapped 6 women and chained them in his basement. His goal? Create a human breeding farm. The basement became a medieval torture chamber. He fed them dog food mixed with human flesh. He used electric shocks and boiling water as punishment. Classical music played while he tortured them. When one woman died from his brutality, he dismembered her body with a power saw. Then he cooked her remains and fed them to the survivors. He dug a pit for solitary confinement. The women lived in complete darkness, chained to pipes like animals. For months, this house of horrors operated in plain sight in urban America. 2 women finally escaped and led police to the basement dungeon. What they found was a private concentration camp that defied belief. Heidnik's crimes were so disturbing, they inspired the Buffalo Bill character in Silence of the Lambs. One man had created hell on earth. For 20 years, Ken McElroy terrorized the small town of Skidmore, Missouri. He stole livestock, burned down buildings, and sexually assaulted children. Despite 21 felony charges, he walked free every time. McElroy used legal tricks and intimidated witnesses into silence. He even forced a 12-year-old girl to marry him after getting her pregnant. The town lived in fear. McElroy would drive around with a shotgun, threatening anyone who crossed him. In 1981, he shot an elderly grocer in broad daylight. The court gave him probation. The community had enough. On July 10th, townspeople held an emergency meeting about McElroy. When they left, they found him sitting in his truck outside the local bar. With 30 to 45 witnesses watching, someone walked up and shot McElroy twice in the head. He died instantly. The FBI launched a massive investigation. They interviewed everyone who was there. Not a single person would identify the shooter. To this day, nobody has talked. An entire town became accomplices to the perfect murder. Some secrets are worth keeping. In 1974, Jack Unterweger murdered a woman and went to prison for 15 years. But instead of rotting in his cell, he became Austria's most celebrated author. He wrote books about his rehabilitation, plays about redemption. The intellectual elite loved him. When he was released in 1990, he became a media sensation, hosting TV shows, writing for newspapers, giving lectures about how killers could change. The public saw him as living proof that murderers could be reformed. But behind his literary fame, Jack had immediately started killing again. He targeted prostitutes across 3 countries, strangling them with the same method he'd used before prison. Then he convinced police to let him cover his own murder investigations as a journalist. He attended his own crime scenes, interviewed detectives about his own killings, wrote newspaper articles about his own murders. His trip to Los Angeles was supposedly for research on prostitution. He killed 3 women there. For 2 years, his literary celebrity provided perfect cover for an 11-victim killing spree until forensic evidence finally connected Austria's beloved reformed killer to the bodies. In 2009, workers entered the abandoned Willard State Hospital in New York. What they found in the attic changed everything. 400 suitcases, perfectly preserved, each one containing the entire life of someone who never left alive. These weren't just patients. They were people erased from existence. A woman committed for refusing an arranged marriage. Her suitcase held love letters she'd never sent. A World War I veteran with shell shock. His war diary still intact after decades. Children as young as 10, locked away for simply acting out. The commitment papers revealed the horrifying truth. People were institutionalized for political excitement and disappointment in love. Many spent over 50 years inside these walls. Their families told they'd been released, but they never left. They died forgotten, entire lives reduced to dusty luggage in an attic. The discovery exposed America's darkest secret. Thousands of people weren't treated. They were disappeared. Their crime, being different in a world that demanded conformity. 400 suitcases, 400 lives, all erased by a system designed to hide society's unwanted. Did you know that one man terrorized an entire region of England for 5 years, and the police had no idea he was hiding in plain sight? Between 1975 and 1980, Peter Sutcliffe murdered 13 women across northern England. He called himself God's messenger, claiming divine voices commanded him to kill. The Yorkshire Ripper struck from behind with hammers and screwdrivers. Then he mutilated his victims with knives. Police launched the largest manhunt in British history. 2.5 million interviews, 5 million car checks, but they were chasing ghosts. Hoax letters and fake audio tapes sent investigators hundreds of miles in the wrong direction. While they searched elsewhere, Sutcliffe continued killing. He lived a normal life. truck driver, married. His own wife had no idea. For 5 years, he walked free while an entire nation lived in fear. Then one night, a routine traffic stop changed everything. The officer had no idea he'd just caught Britain's most wanted killer. The Yorkshire Ripper case exposed fatal flaws that changed criminal investigation forever. Did you know the world's most prolific serial killer murdered over 400 children and could walk free? In the 1990s, Colombia was torn apart by civil war. While authorities battled rebels and cartels, something far more sinister was hunting in the shadows. Luis Garavito called himself La Bestia, the Beast. He dressed as a monk, a beggar, sometimes a street vendor. Poor children trusted him. He offered them money, candy, work. Then he led them somewhere remote. What happened next was unspeakable. Torture, dismemberment, murder. But Garavito didn't just kill. He documented everything. Detailed diaries of each murder. Hand-drawn maps marking where he buried the bodies. He collected trophies, clothing, personal items from his victims. The war provided perfect cover. Dead children were just another tragedy in a country drowning in violence. When investigators finally caught him, Garavito confessed to everything. He called the murders cleansing. Here's the most disturbing part. He cut a deal with prosecutors. Despite being history's worst child killer, he could be released. The Beast might soon walk free. March 20th, 1995, Tokyo morning rush hour. Millions of commuters packed into subway cars. They had no idea they were about to become victims of chemical warfare. Members of the Aum Shinrikyo cult boarded 5 different train lines. Each carried plastic bags filled with liquid sarin nerve gas. They punctured the bags with sharpened umbrellas and fled. Within minutes, passengers began convulsing, foaming at the mouth, going blind. Emergency responders arrived with no idea what they were dealing with. They walked into a chemical weapons attack with zero protection. 13 people died. Thousands were injured. The cult leader, Shoko Asahara, had ordered the attack to trigger an apocalyptic war. He believed it would make him ruler of Japan. This wasn't their first murder attempt. They had been secretly producing chemical weapons in hidden facilities for months. The massive manhunt that followed exposed how close this doomsday cult came to killing hundreds of innocent people. With homemade weapons of mass destruction, they turned Tokyo's subway system into a nightmare that still haunts Japan today. Did you know that in the 1980s, a pediatric nurse systematically murdered 60 children and almost got away with it? Janine Jones worked the night shift at Texas hospitals, but she wasn't there to save lives. She was there to take them. Jones would inject babies with deadly drugs, digoxin to stop their hearts, heparin to cause internal bleeding, succinylcholine to paralyze their lungs. Then she would rush to their rescue, playing the hero as these children died in her arms. She targeted the sickest infants because no one would question their deaths. She kept detailed records of each victim like trophies. The most chilling part? She would comfort the grieving parents after murdering their babies. For 2 years, Jones continued her killing spree undetected, until suspicious doctors noticed something disturbing. Infant deaths always spiked during her shifts. When investigators finally caught her, they discovered the horrifying truth. This trusted caregiver had been systematically hunting the most vulnerable patients in her care. Jones received multiple life sentences, but remains eligible for parole. Some monsters don't hide in the shadows. They wear scrubs. Did you know a Harvard genius became America's most feared mail bomber? Theodore Kaczynski earned his PhD at 25. Brilliant mathematician, promising future. Then something broke. For 18 years, he lived like a hermit in a tiny cabin. No electricity, no running water. But he was building bombs, meticulously crafted, untraceable materials, each one more deadly than the last. He mailed them to professors, airline executives, computer scientists, anyone connected to technology and progress. 3 people died, 23 were maimed. The FBI launched the largest investigation in their history. They had nothing. Then Kaczynski made one mistake. He demanded newspapers publish his 35,000-word manifesto. His own brother read it in the Washington Post. He recognized the writing style immediately. The same brilliant mind that had once solved complex equations was now dissecting in careful detail why industrial society needed to be destroyed. What transformed this promising academic into a killer? Some say it started with brutal psychological experiments at Harvard. CIA-funded torture disguised as research. The Unabomber's reign of terror changed how America viewed mail forever. Did you know that during World War II, Japanese doctors tortured thousands of people in the name of science? In occupied China, a secret facility called Unit 731 operated under the cover of medical research. Led by microbiologist Shiro Ishii, military doctors performed experiments that would make serial killers look merciful. They called their victims logs, human beings reduced to test subjects. Conscious prisoners were cut open without anesthesia. Limbs were amputated to study blood loss. People were deliberately infected with plague and cholera. They froze living subjects to test frostbite treatments. They performed organ transplants between prisoners just to see what would happen. Pregnant women were infected with diseases to study how they spread to unborn children. Over 3,000 people died in systematic torture disguised as medicine. But here's the most disturbing part. After Japan surrendered, American forces discovered Unit 731. Instead of prosecuting these war criminals, they made a deal: immunity in exchange for research data. The doctors who committed these atrocities escaped justice and continued their medical careers. Evil protected by those who should have stopped it.